The most dangerous person in your life isn't necessarily your enemy. It might be the person you cannot afford to lose. The moment you desperately need someone's love, approval, money, protection, attention, or presence, the balance of power changes. You may still believe you're in control, but you're no longer making decisions freely. You're protecting something you're afraid to lose, and that changes everything. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. In The Prince, he repeatedly warns rulers about depending on forces outside their own control. The broader lesson is simple. If your strength depends entirely on someone else, they have leverage over you. Now forget about kings and armies. Think about your own life. Imagine you're terrified your partner will leave you. You might tell yourself you're fighting for love, but maybe you're actually fighting to prevent loss. So you tolerate things you normally wouldn't. You forgive things you shouldn't. You stop saying what you really think, not because you've become more loving, because you've become dependent. And dependency has a strange psychological effect. It makes you negotiate against yourself. You stop asking, what do I actually want? You start asking, what do I need to do so they don't leave? Those are completely different questions. And once someone realizes you cannot walk away, they don't even have to control you. Your fear will do it for them. This happens everywhere. You desperately need your job, so you tolerate a terrible boss. You desperately need someone's approval, so you hide your opinions. You desperately need a relationship, so you accept behavior you'd tell your friend to walk away from. You desperately need attention, so you keep chasing someone who barely notices you. And eventually, you start calling your dependence loyalty. But loyalty is a choice. Dependence is a necessity. And when you cannot leave, your choices become smaller. Machiavelli's lesson isn't that you should trust nobody. It's that you should build enough strength that your survival doesn't depend entirely on one person. Love someone, but don't make them your entire identity. Build a career, but don't make one employer your only source of survival. Have friends, but don't make their approval the measurement of your worth. Accept help, but don't build a life that collapses when the help disappears. Because here's the paradox. The less desperately you need someone, the more freely you can choose them. Think about the difference between, please don't leave me, and I want you here, but I'll be okay if you leave. Both can come from people who genuinely love each other, but psychologically, they are worlds apart. One comes from fear, the other comes from freedom, and freedom changes how you behave. You become more willing to say no, more willing to disagree, more willing to disappoint someone, more willing to walk away. You don't need to threaten anyone. You don't need to play mind games. You simply become someone who can leave, and that is a form of power. But here's the uncomfortable part. Sometimes we deliberately make ourselves dependent. We give someone so much emotional importance that losing them becomes unbearable. Then we spend the relationship trying to prevent the very thing we're terrified of. We become jealous, possessive, anxious, over-available. We constantly seek reassurance, and eventually, the fear of losing the person destroys the relationship we're trying so desperately to preserve. Sometimes we don't lose people because we don't need them enough. We lose them because we need them too much. So ask yourself something uncomfortable. Who in your life has the power to completely destabilize you simply by walking away? Your partner, your boss, a friend, someone whose attention you crave? And now ask the harder question. Why have you given them that much power? Maybe it's time to build the parts of your life you've been outsourcing. Your money, your skills, your confidence, your friendships, your identity, your ability to be alone. Because the goal isn't to become someone who needs nobody. That's not strength. The goal is to become someone who can love, trust, and depend on others without becoming helpless without them. The person who can walk away has options. The person who cannot has leverage working against them. So don't ask, how do I become powerful enough that nobody can hurt me? Ask, what would I need to build so that losing one person, one job, or one source of approval wouldn't destroy me. Build that, because the moment you know you can walk away, you stop begging people to stay, and that's when you finally become free. If you want to understand human nature, power, and the psychology behind becoming harder to control, subscribe to Psychology of Power. Understand human nature, master yourself,